What's up, everybody? It's Chad Minton and Max Greenberg with Catfish and Ice, episode 274, presented by DraftKings. Getting you ready for a new 2025-26 NHL season. I know it's football season. I know everyone's getting all crazy right now because football just started. But guess what? All that football season means is that hockey season is right around the corner.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it anyway.
I look at both. In fact, I got football on my TV. You guys can't see it, but I got it on mute.
I do as well. Good. Yeah, 7-3 Bears over the Vikings.
Yeah.
But you know what's crazy is even though this is like really like the most quiet part of the calendar, if you're a hockey fan, like if you're just a diehard hockey fan, and like that's like really the sport that you just like every day you're like looking for news. It's the most quiet part of time of the year. I mean, it really is. I mean, you're just begging for a trade. You're begging for something. And even with that, we have some stuff to talk about regarding the Nashville Predators tonight. But also, the prospects are hitting the ice this week. So, and news around the league tells me that the Nashville Predators actually have a very, very damn good prospect pool right now.
Yeah, they're hot. They seem high on it.
I mean,
well, maybe not like top 5, but like top 10 or so. That's what the consensus seems to be.
Yeah, and when you finish 30th in the league, you better damn well have a good prospect pool.
Right.
That's all I have to say about that. But yeah, so we do have a lot of talent brewing in the system, and so the prospect tournament's going to be good. And we're going to prime you for training camp, which is right after that. The prospect tournament is going to be coming down to my neck of the woods down here in Tampa. Every prospect tournament, it's always the Preds, the Hurricanes, the Lightning, and the Panthers. Those prospects always get together and they have a little tournament, round robin, no trophy or nothing like that, but just they all play each other. And it's always fun. And I mean, I'm always excited to see hockey, but I'm particularly excited this year because we're going to get into it later, but I have come around to the reality of the situation. It's like literally a full 360, 180, I guess 180 of where we were last year. In terms of, yeah, we've got that hill to climb. We got to climb up, and then we got a long ways to go, Max.
Yeah.
But we got to be really excited about the prospects that are going to be showcasing their talents here this coming week. And it's going to really take us later into episode 274 tonight, roster bubble players. And again, and I'm not trying to sound overly dramatic here, but I can't remember a time really watching this team closely anyway. And I've been watching this team closely since 2019. I've always been a fan of this team, but really watching it closely like a job since 2019. And I can't remember, at least going back to then, that this team has had a more wide open training camp in terms of there's going to be guys out there looking for jobs. And there's going to be guys out there who need to play for their jobs. Max?
Just kind of to your point, I mean, I'm kind of in the same way as you. Like, since like I would say 2019 or so, is when I've always followed this team my whole life, but since like 2019, I'd say as I've been the most like in tune with what this team is, I can't remember like a quieter or like offseason or one where I'm asking like more questions about like what this lineup's going to look like. There's so much uncertainty.
Yep. And it should be that way. Again, when you finish where the Predators fell last year, and when you underperform on a drastic level like the Predators did last year as an entire team, we're not talking about one or two players that underperformed. We're talking about, like, not unscientifically speaking, 90% of the roster underperformed. We've got like a couple players here and there that maybe performed up to where they should be. And that's going to lead me. I'm not doing this. I'm kind of doing this on purpose, but it's also just kind of like working itself out tonight. You guys know how we do this. Like every episode, I lay it out what we're going to be talking about. But it kind of takes us into another topic we're going to be covering tonight. And that is one player who I feel like he definitely didn't underperform. Maybe could he have been a little bit better because he's that superstar level. But I think we can all agree that Philip Forsberg is the Batman of the Nashville Predators organization. I mean, I know it's Roman Josi and he's the captain, but he is significantly a little bit older than Forsberg, and he's going to be out of the picture sooner than Forsberg's out of the picture for sure. But Forsberg is now the Batman. He's not the captain, but he's the Batman of this organization. He's got the utility belt. He does it all the time in games where he just in a sport where it's incredibly difficult to take over games. It's not like the NBA where you can go one-on-one and just take over a game. There's very few skilled players in this sport who can do that. Connor McDavid can do that. Nathan McKinnon can do that. Mikko Rantanen can do that. There's some guys that can do that, but
not as much at least, but I know what you're saying.
But it's very few and far between is my point. Philip Forsberg is kind of on that echelon. He kind of is a tweener, but I would put him close to that level. I've seen him do it for the Predators. But who is his Robin this year? Who is going to step up and be like, hey, Forsberg, you're having an off night or you can't do it on your own. I'm going to step up tonight and do it. It could still be Roman Josi. We're going to have that open debate. We're going to pick one player who's our top contender to be the Robin to Philip Forsberg's Batman this year for the Predators. There's a lot of great teams out there who are legitimate Stanley Cup contenders who have multiple Batmans. They have multiple Robins. I think we can agree that the Predators are not one of those teams. And they might find one as the season progresses, but looking at it now, they don't have that. And also, they might have a couple jokers. All right, I'm sorry I threw that. But also, before we really get the episode going, DraftKings is back as our sponsor for this season. So thank you to DraftKings. And we are also a Pick 6 DraftKings podcast this year. And we're going to tell you more about that. And we are part of the Hockey Podcast Network. But DraftKings has a Pick 6 app that we're going to tell you about. So Catfish and Ice listeners, it's a really sweet deal. It's really awesome. I've already checked it out. And we've got a really sweet offer I'm going to tell you about later in this episode with the DraftKings Pick 6. Just in time for the NFL season and going deeper into the heavy part of the sports season. When NBA gets going, when the NHL season gets going, we'll have football going. We're going to be going crazy. So, yeah, also, I'm repping the Vandy polo. I know it's the old logo.
Yeah, a big win this weekend.
I mean, 2 years in a row, we had to take Virginia Tech out back and show them who's boss. Good times. And
did you hear about what they did with the locker room on Saturday?
I saw it circulating.
Props to Vandy for doing that. I mean, there's not a lot of teams that would. If do you want to say it or is it cool if I kind of say what happened?
No, go ahead and say it. Yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know, Virginia Tech, their custodian, so whoever it was, posted something on X/Twitter, basically saying that Vandy left the locker room in perfect shape. It was spotless. They came back. They found it one way, left the place much better than it was. Absolute props to them for doing that. There's not a lot of teams that would do that.
And I'm actually going to find that image so we can put it on Facebook or put it on our stream on Facebook and on. But to jump on what Max is saying, so basically, and this came from a Virginia Tech account too that I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool, but let me see if I can find it. Because I think I put it on my own account. But either way, if you guys don't know, I am like a big time Vanderbilt fan. I have been since I was like old enough to even care about watching sports. So growing up in Nashville, people have always asked me, like, that's kind of like a weird thing to just be a Vanderbilt fan. Why wouldn't you be a Vols fan? And I mean, true story. So I can't find the story. I can't find the post right now. But growing up in Nashville and growing up in the Hendersonville, Tennessee area, all my friends were Vols fans, all of them. And my dad took me to my first Vanderbilt football game in the early 90s when they played top 10 Notre Dame. And for anyone I think it was 1994, 95, fact check me on that. It was in that mid 90s for sure. And Notre Dame was top 10 ranked. Vanderbilt was Vanderbilt, 2-win Vanderbilt per year. And for whatever reason, both teams had the gold helmets, but for whatever reason, I cheered for Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt almost won that game, actually. Any diehard old school Vanderbilt fan will tell you that they actually almost upset Notre Dame that day. But that always stuck with me. And as I got older, I just Vanderbilt was in my city. It was where we were. And I had all these friends in my school who were Vols fans, and they would talk all this crap to me for liking Vanderbilt. They would just be like, Vanderbilt's a horrible team, and it just made me want to cheer for them even more. So that's kind of so to see them do what they do now, and they had James Franklin, and we have a lot of fans who watch our show who are from Nashville, so they can appreciate what I'm saying right now, and they're probably Vols fans, and you guys get it. If you're a Vanderbilt fan, you've been through hell and back so many times, and so to see what if you could put your bias aside, I know a lot of Vols fans hate Vanderbilt because they're just annoying or whatever, but it's kind of cool to see Clark Lee. To tie it all back around, Clark Lee, this guy breeds culture. You're seeing that in the locker room right now, and he's an alumni of that school. So he's very different than James Franklin when he was here, who, totally understood. He went to Penn State, way bigger nationally recognized program, left on really, really ugly terms. But he did. He went there. He's still chasing that national championship with Penn State. Good for him. But Clark Lee, it breeds Vanderbilt. He played there. He cares about that school. He's a great head coach. And when you see what Max just brought up about something like cleaning the locker room and the opponent's account, not the Virginia Tech account, but an account associated with Virginia Tech, says, thank you for cleaning the locker room, basically, and it goes viral. That's what you want in a program. So that's cool. It makes me feel good, and that's why I'm repping the Vandy Polo. We got to play South Carolina this week. Look, when you're Vanderbilt, no week is easy. You're playing the SEC. Number 10 South Carolina at the Gamecocks. That team owns us. I think I was still in diapers the last time Vanderbilt beat South Carolina, which is so weird because South Carolina is not a perennial superpower in college football, but we can't beat South Carolina, it seems like, ever. So we'll see. But either way, it's exciting. But let's get to hockey now, Max. Also, I wanted to bring it back around. Yeah, that's right, because you're a Wake Forest guy. Mm-hmm. And so are you at least a little happy to see Virginia Tech, an ACC team, get beat by Vanderbilt?
It's kind of funny to see when schools like that lose a little bit. So I'll say this, over the past few years, before we get into hockey, I'm not going to stay on this too long, but over the past few years with the NIL and all that, there's been a lot. I've never been totally a believer. There's some fans out there that they feel like they have to root for their conference if they're playing non-conference games. I'm not totally a believer in that. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. In the case of Virginia Tech Vandy, that's cool to see Vandy win or Virginia Tech lose. But I will say, this weekend when Troy played Clemson almost lost to Troy at home. I would have been devastated to see an ACC team lose to Troy. That's understood.
Especially Clemson, the pride of your conference.
That's our saving grace right now.
I'm the same way as you, man. Not to get too – we're going to turn into an SEC football podcast before too long, so we're going to tie this up. We probably got some hockey fans that are probably angry at us right now. But it is the dead part of the hockey season, everybody. So
Yep.
let's not get too angry at us. But yeah, let me just say I'm the same way and cheering for an SEC team. Trust me, I get it. SEC, they're like a pack of wolves when it comes to like sticking to their own. But also the rivalries kind of like exist too, where they don't want to cheer, like Auburn, Alabama. You got that. You got Florida, Florida State, but that's ACC and SEC. You get weird rivalries and weird, but when it comes to NIL, I am so torn on that. And again, we're not going to get into it because we're a hockey podcast, but like a part of me loves it because these kids deserve the money, and these colleges should not be making all this money off their skill and off their name. But at the same time, it's also kind of ruining college athletics and being the student athlete. So I'm not prepared to give one opinion or another on that because it's such a difficult issue to argue. So we're not going to get into it because we're a hockey podcast.
Exactly.
So with that said, you can always hit me up on X and we can talk about it.
Me too.
But we're not going to talk about it on this podcast. But anyway, I'm always going to rep Vandy because it's my podcast and I rep Vandy. So there you go. I got to update my polo though because they got a new logo now. But bring back the Star V though because this was the actual OG
that's
logo.
Last comment. That's the better logo.
Yeah. All right. So fair enough. So let's get into it here. 274 of Catfish and Ice presented by DraftKings and part of the Hockey Podcast Network. If we get any comments on the live stream, we'll throw them on there on the screen. But I think we have to open up the podcast, Max, with just talking about the training camp primer because it's really right here. And I really want to get into these roster bubble players. And it really ties in also to the players who are going to be playing at the prospect tournament in Tampa coming up. So I'll pull up that list again. But Max, how about you start us off with just maybe your top player who you're most excited to see, who's on the fringe of the roster, who you're like, I can't wait to watch this guy in training camp.
Honestly, I'm trying to think. Probably Joachim Kemmel, honestly, with the shot he has. He also has some underrated playmaking ability. I'm most excited to see the impact he can make in this tournament. See, if his game has taken a step to the next level. I remember he obviously played in 2 games last year, which in the NHL that's not enough, or anywhere, especially in the NHL, that's not enough of a sample size to go off of. But I'm really to see if obviously we know he's a talent, but I'm excited to see if he's if he's gotten one step closer to putting together. That's one guy I'm really excited to watch.
Of course. And Joachim Kemmel, I got the roster there, the prospect tournament roster on the screen now for the YouTube and Facebook viewers. But yeah, I mean, Joachim Kemmel is an easy one because this guy is going to tie into later into my Luke Evangelista discussion.
Which that's another thing.
But he's a guy that, with or without Evangelista on the roster, he is a guy that is easily should be one of the top players in your spotlight for this training camp because he is he's got those innate skills that you want to see in a player that he can translate immediately to the NHL. His shot release, his power play potential. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking about with Kemmel to take the next step. If he only got 2 games last year, but Trotz has already made it very clear. We'll see if he holds true to it, but he's already made it clear that this is the year where we're going to actually see some of these younger players get the chance. Now he's going to have to eat those words if your Eric Hollas and these guys steal all of their minutes. Because here's where I'm getting at. It's one thing to say, oh, the young players are going to play. It's another thing when they average 10 to 12 minutes a game.
Right.
I'm just going to call it out like it is.
Right.
And we're going to talk about Luke Evangelista a little bit later. And Luke Evangelista has dominated this podcast for the last 3 episodes, maybe, because there hasn't been a lot to talk about this offseason other than Luke Evangelista. But I get so many responses on X about Luke Evangelista being not worth it. Or, like good riddance. See you later. Bye-bye. You scored 10 goals last year. We don't want you. And it's like, do you guys not look at ice time? Do you guys is that like a total column you guys just skip over? You just go right to goals and assists and that's all you care about? The dude literally has averaged, I'm going to pull it up, but I know for sure he's not more than 13 minutes ice time in his career.
For Evangelista, no, they can't be.
And I always fact check myself because I'm wrong too sometimes. But I can't understand. Okay, 1352. Okay, there you go. That's why I looked it up. That's still not much, but that's why I looked it up. But this past season was 1352. So that put him at what his career average is at. But my point, so 1352, his career average is 14 minutes, 17 seconds. That's super low. And he has still managed to put up 33 goals in his career. So the point I'm trying to make is what kind of production do you want to see from a guy when and I've also heard this response, oh, well, he's not ready for top 6 minutes. He hasn't played in the top 6 that much. So we'll talk about this a little bit later. I'm getting ahead of myself. But when it comes to this prospect tournament, Joachim Kimmel is a type of guy that is definitely one of the top contenders to get into Barry Trotz's oh, yeah, you're up. Let's see what you can do type of atmosphere. So I'm right there with you on that, Max.
Yeah.
Another guy that I'm really excited to watch in this training camp is, let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. Let's talk about Brady Martin here. Right. Is he going to actually live up to the hype here? When you're the 5th overall draft pick for an organization that hasn't gotten that high of a draft pick in a long time, the hype is naturally going to come along with that. I don't fault Trotz for leaving the possibility out there that he could earn a spot right out of training camp. That's how you want to keep the player hungry. He's a 5th overall pick. So you want that desire. It's very hard in the NHL to, no matter how high of a pick you are, unless you're Connor Bedard and some of these other guys. But for the most part, you're not going right to the NHL. And so when you're talking about a team like the Predators who have a severe lack of depth at center, but also just a severe lack of talent in general, Brady Martin makes you think a little bit, And so I'm excited just to see what he does in training camp in terms of pushing the veterans. I really want to hear what the veterans have to say about him, and I hope they're honest. And I want to see how he plays in some of the preseason games, and just see how interesting he really makes it. That's kind of where I'm at with that. Do I expect him to just be a starter right away? No, I don't. And I don't think the Predators should feel the urge to do that unless they just really feel like, if Eric Hollow wasn't in this conversation, then I would say for sure Brady Martin has a chance. But you have Eric Hollow, you have Michael McCarron. They're going to eat up those bottom 6 center minutes most likely. Is Brady Martin going to overstep them right away? I probably doubt that.
I don't think so.
But still, either way, it's going to be a really fun player to watch in training camp. And that's what most people who show up to watch the training camp sessions, that's who they're going to want to see, is the 5th overall pick, Brady Martin.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun to see. And then, of course, Tanner Molendyke, who's been coming down the pike for a while now. He's another guy that I feel like people aren't talking about him quite as much as they maybe should be in terms of a sneaky player who could steal a spot. This guy's talent is through the roof. I mean, he is Roman Yossi 2.0 if everything works out for him.
Problem is, I mean, the defense is such a logjam, especially on the left side. I mean, it's going to be hard to see where he fits.
That is true. You're very right about that.
I mean, that's the elephant in the room for me. Is like, where does he fit in this equation?
But if Trotz is truly believing that he thinks that it's time to kind of turn the guard over a little bit here, how much longer are you going to keep Tanner Mollendijk down there? I mean, I would argue that Mollendijk is the best prospect in the Predators prospect pool right now.
Yeah, probably.
He's more seasoned. He's been around a little bit longer.
Yeah,
the dude is such a smooth skater. It's ridiculous.
So.
And he's probably maxed out, no pun intended to you, Max, but he's probably maxed out at the level he plays at. We can agree with that. He can't accomplish anything more at the level he's playing.
Probably
and
not,
you've got the whole junior hockey rules that gets a little complicated on when they can go play in the AHL. Like Brady Martin can't play with the Milwaukee Admirals this year because he's 18. But when you look at Tanner Mollendijk, he's 20. So I'm pretty sure he can play with the Admirals this year. Pretty sure he can. But I don't know where he's going to be at this year.
Yeah. It's just tough. There's so many. It's one of those things where on the defense, if Mollendijk plays, it's like someone who either don't see getting taken out or someone you don't want to get taken out is going to be taken out.
And I've written an article about this. Who will be Roman Yossi's top defensive pairing partner? And I think a lot of people think it's going to be Nicholas Hague. That seems like the most logical.
Nick Blankenberg, I always say.
I know you do.
I will not let that go.
But when you look at guys that could fall out in favor of Mollendijk, I mean, I'm just reading off guys who are like definitely roster bubble players. Jordan Osterley, Andreas England, Justin Barron. I mean, he's a left defenseman.
No, he's a right.
He's a right. I was looking at Osterley.
And Yost is a left, so that what you're saying makes sense.
But what I was saying is like, where does Mollendijk start? Because his elite talent. But you're right, Max. Like, who does he overtake?
Right.
You're right about that. I think there's a very strong chance, though, that we see Mollendijk and Braden Martin make their NHL debuts this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if the season goes off the rails early and or whatever. But that's why they went out and got Perbix. That's why they got Hague. They still got Brady Shea, who their fingers crossed can just really have a more comfortable year in Nashville after his first year was just a disaster for the most part. And then you got Roman Yossi, whose health is very questionable right now.
Yeah.
But we're keeping our fingers crossed that he's got more left in the tank. So you look at those four, and I wrote an article on Predlines with my roster bubble players that we're talking about, and those are my locks for the defense: Yossi, Shea, Hague, and Perbix.
Yeah.
And then I called everyone else bubble players. I really did. I only called four.
As much as I don't want to, I acknowledge there's a chance that Blankenberg doesn't even see the lineup to at least open the year. He could be the healthy scratch.
Healthy scratch seems very likely.
Yeah.
He's going to be in the lineup.
I mean, he won't be sent to Milwaukee or anything, but I could see him being one of those in and out guys.
Well, he's not going to be sent to Milwaukee because he's not a two-way player. He's not on a two-way. He'd have to be waived. He'd have to be waived.
Right.
But so that would be crazy if they did that because somebody would pick him up. They're probably going to keep the status quo. They're going to bring Justin Barron in there to try him out as well. They're probably going to rotate Barron and Blankenberg and see who plays better early in the season. Because as much as I'm not a believer in Justin Barron, they're not going to give up on a guy that they traded for this soon.
Straight up for Alexander Carrier, mind you.
That's what I'm saying. Which I will never agree with that trade.
No.
The only way I'm going to...
I don't know how Barry Trotz just didn't get more for that. I'll never...
They're going to have to really... They're going to have to really Justin Barron's going to have to just go off. He's going to have like a crazy, unexpected just season of his life for me to ever be convinced that trade made sense.
I hate to say it about this trade. And it almost just, when you look at that trade, it almost just feels like Trotz made the team worse. And here's the thing, like, I don't have an issue with making the team worse on paper, at least in the short term, if overall you can get like assets back. But Trotz didn't do that. He just traded straight up for Alexander Carrier straight up for Justin Barron. Like, literally just made the team worse for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Let's go further down the roster, though. But I will say this, like Justin, I still consider Barron and Blankenberg roster bubble players. They need to have strong training camps. They'll probably both be on the roster, but I call them roster bubble players. And Tanner Molendyk is the type of player that, I mean, I don't think that you should go into this training camp as Trotz or Brunette and call anybody a lock except for a very few players that you have to call locks. The obvious choices like Forsberg, Yossi, Shea, like those guys are locks. You're not moving them off the roster. But like, I know you're a big Blankenberg guy.
He's not a lock. I know he's not a lock.
I'm calling him not a lock.
Well, no, he's not.
I don't think anybody should be a lock, really. But I'm just saying, like, it's going to be. He's in my roster bubble. I think he deserves to be on the roster. I think he'll prove it because Blankenberg is a guy that just works his ass off, and he feeds off this type of competition, and so he'll be fine in training camp, actually. Yeah. So, and the fact that he would have to be waived really makes him even more safe because you don't want to waive that guy. You want him going into your season, and he will be claimed if you waive him. So, but when it comes to the purpose of roster bubble players in the prospect tournament, which Tanner Molendyk is going to be playing in, I think that he's not going to make the team. But man, this is really his year to really take off. Going further down, you got Cameron Reed's going to be in the prospect tournament. He's not a roster bubble player. He's not going to make the Preds roster, but he is going to be playing in the prospect tournament. And he was one of those additional first-round picks the Predators had. And that was a pick that I liked even more than the Brady Martin pick personally. I had him targeted on my draft board before the draft happened. And I didn't think he was going to slide to the Predators outside the top 20. So the fact that the Predators got Cameron Reed was actually my favorite draft pick of the entire draft class for the Predators. We'll see if that works out for me. But just me personally, that was my favorite pick the Predators made was Cameron Reed. So I'm excited to watch him. David Edstrom, I'm going down the list here on your screen for the prospect tournament. David Edstrom, he's actually, I wouldn't call him necessarily a roster bubble player, but he is definitely in the mix of the crop of centers who the Predators are hoping can get called up in the next 2 years. Edstrom is an interesting one. He was acquired in the trade for Ekholm, I believe.
No, that was the Askarov trade.
Oh, Askarov trade. All right. There's so many trades that happen.
I know.
But I'm going to pull up Edstrom here on Puckpedia. Ekholm was Reed Schaefer.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
But but David Edstrom is definitely a prospect who has a lot of potential to eventually make the NHL level, at least as a bottom six type of center. Was originally drafted in 2023, picked 32 in the first round by Vegas. So he is definitely a guy to watch in the prospect tournament. I'm excited to watch him for sure. And then going further down, Matthew Wood is going to be playing in this prospect tournament. He has a very strong chance to make the Preds roster out of training camp, especially if Luke Evangelista is not in the mix. But even if Evangelista is in the mix, Matthew Wood has a really strong chance. Where would you see Matthew Wood playing in the lineup, Max, if he makes the roster?
You know, I think I might push back a bit on saying he has a very strong chance. I think getting back in the lineup last year was kind of more see what you have now. If he is in the lineup, though,
Max, They don't have a lot of options, though.
I know, but even still, like he'll definitely be a bubble player, and if he is, he'll be third line at best.
I mean, you look at their depth, and it's like kind of frightening. I mean, I'm just saying, like they're gonna have to force somebody in who might not be ready. Is my point. I mean, they especially on the wing. I mean, someone's going to go in there who might not be ready, but they're going to have to go with them because I've looked at their projected lineup, and you see some people putting Kimmel in there. You see some people put Matthew Wood in there, but there's an open spot on the wing, even with Evangelista projected in there. There's an open spot on the wing that somebody has to fill. That's my point.
And you know who I think is a good chance it might be, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
Who?
It might be Ozzy Weisblatt.
Well, that's another roster bubble player that we have to talk about.
That's one guy I'm excited. That's one of the guys I was going to say I'm excited to watch.
And he's not in the prospect tournament. He shouldn't be. He's been around for a minute.
Why did I think it's that not his name? Are these names all in the prospect pool on the screen?
Yeah, the ones I have on the screen are just who's playing in the prospect tournament.
Okay, that's what I meant. Yeah, Weisblatt's the second to last one.
No, that's not him. That's his brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Oops.
No, I know. It's crazy.
Either way, that's a rosterable guy I'm excited to see, and I think very well could.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. So that's his. Let me pull it up real quick. No, Ozzy Weisblatt's not in the prospect tournament. He's actually been around for a little bit in terms of being a prospect. Let me pull it up. But no, Ozzy that's a really good, solid choice by you in terms of overtaking Matthew Wood and Joachim Kimmel to be in the lineup this year.
And I think, I mean, maybe I'm thinking too much here. I think in terms of like a fourth line guy that he might be a better fit than those other guys because like he just seems like a pure like obviously he has like speed, but he also has like physicality too. He's like a pure energy guy, if you know what I mean. And whereas like guys like Matthew Wood and what's his face Joachim Kimmel, they're like pure talents. Maybe playing on the fourth line isn't necessarily best for their development. Not saying they absolutely shouldn't play there, but you see what I mean. Where I think Weisblatt might be better like a pure fourth line fit.
No, I totally get it. So I'm about to put Oasis Weisblatt on the screen, who is actually playing in the prospect tournament.
That's so funny. I didn't know Ozzy Weisblatt had a brother, let alone that he also is.
I think it's his brother. I don't know. I'm assuming it's his brother. I don't know.
It must be. So at least someone related to him.
You would assume he's 21. Ozzy's 23. There you go.
Yeah.
He's rocking the stash. And he has been in the league. He's been in the WAHL, Western Hockey League, going back to 2019-2020. 103 points last year for the Medicine Hat Tigers. Look at that. Undrafted, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, look at that. So anyway, we went off on a tangent there because there's very similar names we're talking about here.
That is so funny.
One thing you know about hockey is that there are so many confusing names. I mean, seriously. But it almost got me too, Max. It really did. But anyway.
Straight got me.
But Ozzy Weisblatt for sure. We got some comments rolling in. Joel, who's definitely always comments on Facebook. We appreciate you, Joel. Says, fit Molendyke in and trade away some of the logjam. They have to play him. There you go.
Can you trade those, Mike?
Trade away the logjam. What do you think about Matthew Wood? He looked good in his small sample last season. Yeah, I think Matthew Wood. Joel, thank you for the comments. Here's how I feel about Matthew Wood. I think what's really going to lend well to him in terms of maybe making the starting lineup right out of training camp, is Matthew Wood actually has some physicality to his game. I saw some two-way skill to his game in the very brief time we saw him. And Matthew Wood also was the victim of some really good goalie play in front of him from keeping him from scoring some goals. I mean, he was all over the net. He was getting shots on net. So I think Matthew Wood, in his small sample size in the NHL last year, actually showed us a lot of really good things. So I think he is a prime training camp guy to watch, no doubt. And it won't surprise me at all if he actually makes the roster on opening night and he's starting somewhere in the bottom 6 probably. 6 games last year, he had 1 assist, but he had 8 shots on goal. He only played an 11:35 average ice time. But, I mean, I remember quite clearly at least 2 or 3 times where the goalie absolutely robbed him. I think he hit a post a couple times, if I remember correctly.
Like the rest of the team, he could not finish worth a damn.
Yeah, I know. But, I mean, I think that – so he had 17 shots attempted and 8 shots on goal. So, I mean, the guy was aggressive. 17 shots attempted in six games. I think he's going to be good. I think that's definitely a player that the Predators have to. And I just told Max this exact thing. The Predators don't have depth right now. It's that clear. So a Matthew Wood, a Joakim Kimmel, someone's going to Ozzy Weisblatt. One of them 3. I'm calling my shot right now. One of them 3 are going to be in the starting lineup on opening night. I'm just going purely off.
You can come out Ozzy Weisblatt. Yeah, I think so too.
I'm going purely off their options.
Yeah.
Unless they trade for somebody we don't see coming right now. And that's going to really get us to our next topic. But unless they add somebody that's not currently in this system right now, it's one of those 3 that have to be in the lineup. They just don't have depth. And you might say none of those guys are ready, but what do you have to lose? I mean, you gotta see what you got.
Right.
You know? I mean, so you can't have it both ways. All these Predators fans they've been banging the drum for years about wanting the Predators to be younger. Okay, well, here's your opportunity. You're about to see it. That's how I feel about it. And we'll see what happens. So other roster bubble players, Max, that I got going further down. And again, we're just looking at let me talk about some veterans, Max, that I think are roster bubble players. And you might disagree with me. I think that Cole Smith should be a roster bubble player.
I don't think he should be a total lock either. I certainly don't think he'll make it, but yeah, he's a 4th line guy. I don't think guys like that should ever be just given anything.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean by this. I'm not saying that I'm not predicting that he's probably, yes, overwhelmingly speaking, he's going to make the roster because a lot of NHL teams prefer to go with the veteran experience, especially someone like Cole Smith who does kill penalties. That's his biggest selling point, and I'm not discounting that. Cole Smith is a dog when it comes to the penalty kill, and that is something that the Predators are probably going to need this year. They're going to be killing a lot of penalties, and so I understand the value that Cole Smith brings, but I'm also going to be realistic here for a second. Cole Smith is a dime a dozen when it comes to what he brings to you on offense.
Yeah.
So you really got to – Barry Trotz and Andrew Burnett have to make a decision on what they value more. Now, I kind of already have an idea of what Barry Trotz values more, and he values more of the Cole Smith type of player, which he has the ultimate say in it. And so that tells me that Cole Smith will definitely be in the starting lineup. But at what point do you have to be like, hey, this ain't working anymore and we have to try something new? And Trotz did say we're going to give new guys a chance to prove themselves this year. Probably not going to be game 1 of the 2025-26 season. But your guys who are on 2-way contracts, I think that they're going to get their opportunities.
I mean, honestly, I think there's an underrated chance that a guy like Cole Smith could be traded at some point to a team that, is a contender for a team that just, wants more, bottom six physical depth. And you don't think a guy like Cole Smith would get much, but I mean, especially if you wait till the trade deadline, you never know what certain teams, of course, you're not going to get a crazy return, but like you might get a little more than you think for a guy like Cole Smith for a team that, wants some depth, because teams at the deadline will overpay for depth. They will.
Oh, for sure. And he is a depth player for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a fourth line grinder, just like Michael McCarron. But I still put him on my roster bubble because he still has some competition breathing down his neck.
Yeah.
He's not as safe as he was the previous years, I don't think.
Michael McCarron probably isn't as safe either.
The only thing Michael McCarron has going for him, well, yeah, he's a center and he's also a really big body, and he's kind of like an enforcer in a way. Like he's like the big body protector who steps in, and you take him out of the equation. Who do you have to fill in that role? I don't know. You really don't have anybody that fills that role. If you take Michael, you need at least one guy. Even in today's new age NHL, you need at least one guy who can take the 5-minute penalty and just like, so in that regard, I think Michael McCarron is worlds apart safer than Cole Smith. But, we've talked about it previously. I was really hype on Brady Martin, and to my credit to my co-host, Max, he talked me off the ledge and said, dude, he's not going to take over Michael McCarron. And Max was right. He's not. But I'm just so excited to see a 5th overall pick. And I really like Brady Martin. But I have to pump the brakes on myself here and realize that it's a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to these prospects. So I can't wait to see Brady Martin make his NHL debut. But it's not like the NFL where we just got to see Cam Ward.
No.
Make his debut.
Give the guy, not going to give the guy some help. Let me tell you. Right.
Right. Yeah, we're going to save Titans time for a future episode. And, Anyway, all right. Anyway, we've already gone on a lot of tangents tonight. But, Max, read Max's stuff on Titans time. And Max puts out a lot of great stuff on the Titans on X. And I did watch that game yesterday.
I did not because I was traveling.
But I'm sure you know a lot. You've read a lot.
I heard.
And the Titans wrote the encyclopedia yesterday on how to give away a game. Let's just leave it at that. Right. Brian Callahan is right there with Andrew Burnett in the doghouse of Nashville head coaches. They're hanging out together. I think Brian Callahan and Andrew Burnett go to the same place every night. And
at least Burnett's had his season. At least Burnett's proven he can coach a competent team. Brian Callahan has not proven that yet.
Yeah, that's a good point because Andrew Burnett's been other places.
At least Burnett's proven that people don't ask. People say that Burnett at least can coach. People do not know that Brian Callahan can coach.
Apparently Brian Callahan didn't even know one of the rules like yesterday.
Right,
challenge or something. I don't know. And then
that's for another time.
Jeffrey Simmons shoved a guy down.
Yeah.
You got Calvin Ridley basically wearing oven mitts to catch balls. You got Cam Ward's father in the stands, literally on camera, throwing his head down, because guys are dropping balls right in their mitts. Cam Ward's firing it right in there. Anyway, all right. Let's move on. But roster bubble players. All right, let's go further down. Andrew Gibson is another really underrated defenseman that people keep reminding me about, and I'm so sorry that I keep forgetting about him, and that's why I want to bring Andrew Gibson up. He is another right shot defenseman that could see time for the Preds this year. I don't think he's going to make it out of training camp again because you do have that log jam. You have that log jam with the defenseman for the Preds right now. It makes it hard for guys like Andrew Gibson, Tanner Mollendijk, to break their way in. But I do want to get further into the Preds roster real quick before we move on here. Roster bubble players, I already told you that I consider Blankenberg a roster bubble player, even though I do think he's ultimately going to be on the team. Justin Barron, I consider a roster bubble player. On the forwards, I consider Cole Smith a roster bubble player, even though he's probably going to make the team. I consider Obviously, your younger players like Weisblatt, Wood, roster bubble players fighting for a position. And then going into the prospect pool, Brady Martin is still a roster bubble player. Reed Schaefer is another guy that we should keep on our radar. And he was
that you should watch out from this year, maybe.
He's a physical guy, and I mean he was the guy who was acquired in the Matthias Ekholm trade.
Yep.
And he's on a really good trajectory in his time, and he's still got 2 more years left on his 2-way contract. So plenty of time for the Predators to figure out what they want to see out of Reed Schaefer. So he's a guy that I could definitely see getting caught up this year, playing a few games, getting his feet wet. Maybe he takes off. He's, again, roster bubble player. These are guys you're watching just to see what they do in training camp. Defensemen who are other than – this gives you an idea of how stacked the Preds defense actually is. And they've always been a factory for great defensemen when you look at the Preds historically. Ryan Ufko, Spencer Stastny, Adam Wilsby. That's the guy. I knew I was leaving out one guy that I actually think realistically can really be in the top 6 for the Preds defenseman, like one of the 3 pairings.
But again, he's fighting that logjam like crazy.
Adam Wilsby, and he's a left shot defenseman, like you said. And these guys can rotate. They can play right or left. Some of them can. So Adam Wilsby is a guy that, you know, he was playing really great until he had an injury last year and he didn't come back. And I gotta feel like that's a guy that, as long as he looks really good in training camp, the Preds got to put him in there. I would think. I mean, know. Like, again,
though, you're fighting that logjam plus Molendyk. So where does he fit?
I think Wilsby's got to be ahead of Molendyk, I would think. But again, these are.
I don't know. I don't know though.
It's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have, I guess, if you're an organization.
But man.
And then you go, this is why the Predators prospect pool is regarded as definitely top half of the league right now, but maybe even top 10, is because they do have a lot of good prospects right now. And they have a lot of choices to make. And let's hope that they can break the curse of ruining all their great prospects, which is what this organization has done. All right, so that's our roster bubble segment. That's our training camp primer segment. Good stuff there. Oh, we're excited because we got DraftKings back this year. And I want to tell you, we have been chosen this year as a podcast to represent a new deal with DraftKings, and it's called Pick 6. So football is back, and so is your shot at big wins with DraftKings Pick 6, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Your game day instincts can score you real money fast. Here's the play. Just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, from breakout rookies to elite quarterbacks, and unlock the upside every snap brings. The better your calls, the bigger your payout. So let's I'm going to pull up DraftKings right now on my phone, and we're going to pull up Pick 6. So football just started. NFL just started. Max, I know you're really into NFL as well. And what really stood out to you, Max, from this past week 1?
It's hard to say because I didn't watch some of the games I was traveling. Although I will say that Sunday night game last night was insane.
That was
unreal.
So, I mean, regarding the Pick 6 app for me, like, I would be going all in on some of these younger quarterbacks in the league right now. I feel like the NFL has a really, really good range of young quarterbacks right now. Whether it's who we're watching tonight, J.J. McCarthy for the Vikings. You can take a lot of good chances on young quarterbacks right now and what they can do. So, that's what you can do with the Pick Six app is you can literally call your shot. And here's the kickoff bonus. New DraftKings customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. This season, play your player instincts. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN. Play just $5 and get $50 in Pick Six bonus picks. Make the call, ride the upside in partnership with DraftKings Pick Six. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable. Pick Six bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. There you go.
Speaking of which, JJ McCarthy just threw a pick six.
Oh my God. As I was reading that.
He literally just threw a pick six.
Wow. If that's not a good promo for DraftKings right there. Don't take my advice on JJ McCarthy. He's a good young quarterback, though. But anyway,
first game he's ever played.
But he just threw a pick six as I was reading the pick six promo.
Insane.
I did not plan that, guys. I wish I had that much power over the universe, but I do not. That was totally coincidence. Wow. I'm so sorry to JJ McCarthy and all JJ McCarthy fans because I totally just jinxed the hell out of that guy. All right. So the Bears are up 17-6 now. All right. There we go. Still, pick six, DraftKings, go do it. It's still fun. Just don't do JJ McCarthy, I guess. Maybe you should go Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, Bears, go with him instead. Another young quarterback. All right, there you go. All right, so we have to transition now to the trade rumors involving Luke Evangelista. And yes, when an RFA goes this deep into the offseason, you start – first of all –
now it's time to wonder what's going on. This is ridiculous.
Well, first of all, people first might bring up offer sheets, but no one does offer sheets. It just doesn't happen.
At this point in the offseason, it's not going to happen. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen.
No. They would have done it already.
Right.
I mean, nothing's ever impossible.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, you can't see a team offer sheeting Luke Evangelista now.
At this point in the offseason, it'd be a stunner.
And he's not highly regarded around the league. I hate to say it. I mean, does he have a little bit of trade value? Absolutely. I've seen him linked, and these are just people writing articles, so I'm not going to say that like Elliot Friedman's reporting on it or anything, but there have been links to a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs being interested in a player like Evangelista in a 1-for-1 swap of similar style players. But let's talk about that first. What would we be willing? Let's say it seems like, Max, it really seems like the two sides are further apart than we initially realized.
Right.
Like it really, and I'm telling you right now, this is just me reading the tea leaves. I could be totally wrong. This is just my thinking. You can tell me I'm misreading it all you want. I get the inclination that Luke Evangelista does not believe in the long-term value of this franchise.
Possible.
So he's like, I'm not re-signing here in my first NHL contract unless it's a 2-year deal. I'm not locking myself up in Nashville.
And isn't like Trotz the one who wants like a long-term deal?
Yeah. That's a total holdup right now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised or really blame Evangelista if that's what his thought was. On the trade front, I will say, I mean, I guess anything's possible. You never know what you would get back in return. But assuming like one thing I did see, and I saw your article on this, that one potential idea that was floated was for Nick Robertson. And And if it's for him or even any player of that caliber, I'd honestly be pissed because, again, you want to invest in a homegrown guy, a guy you've had. You can have continuity. Yeah, I get Robertson might bring the speed element a little more, but still, like, again, you have your guy who's clearly talented. Invest in him, and like if you flip flop him, you're just doing more of this thing where you can't keep the guys who you were trying to develop and all that. It may not totally set the franchise back in terms of like just pure talent on paper, but just in terms of what this means, in terms of like franchise credibility, you lose more and more and more. Just like keep Evangelista and re-sign him, and just do that, and like don't bring in another guy who's not going to be a guy for the long term, most likely.
I'm not a big fan of this whole talk of trading Evangelista for another similar style player to Evangelista.
I hate it.
Like, I mean, you already got the guy who's played. You haven't even given Evangelista the keys to the car yet. That's what I keep arguing with people who don't like Evangelista on like social media. Fellow fans, I respect their opinions. I'm not saying they're all wrong. All I'm saying is I disagree.
Right, me too.
Because how are you going to say that you don't believe in Evangelista when the guy really hasn't gotten his chance yet? And he's also, outside of Forsberg and some of the other veterans, he's actually been the most efficient player in his time he does play on this team since he's been first called up over the last 3 years. I know that's not saying a lot because this team has been atrocious when it comes to generating goals, but he's not your enemy number one when it comes to why this team is a mess.
Not even close.
So, and the fact, and I keep saying, like, I keep seeing people say, oh, like Evangelista can't do this or that. And it's like the dude very rarely got top 6 opportunities.
And did you see what happened when he did at the end of the year?
He looked really good.
Right.
So, I mean, my whole initial thought process for this year before this drug out was Evangelista is going to get his deal. He's going to get his prove it year. The Predators are going to have to put him in the top 6 because, again, like I just said earlier in this episode, their depth is really, really bad. So they're going to have no choice but to put Evangelista in the top 6. And then that's going to be his prove it year. Now, I'm not tied up on AAV with Evangelista because the salary cap's growing. It's going to get to the point where I think 3 to 3.5 million AAV, I'm fine.
Put it this way. If it's a long-term deal, the AAV won't matter. If it's a short-term deal, it'll be a short-term deal. The AAV essentially won't matter.
Yeah. I've always said 3 years should be like the middle ground for both sides. But I think Evangelista's camp wants 2 years. And I think Trotz's camp must want more than 3, maybe. I don't know. Maybe
5 or 6.
Maybe even Evangelista is not willing to go 3. I don't know. I don't know what the breaking point is. There's not a lot of there's really very little news out there.
It's been radio silence.
Yeah. You'll see Friedman and some of these other national people make comments about it, but they're speculating just like we are for the most part. So no one really knows what's going on right now. But it tells me that Evangelista's not bought in.
Someone's not bought in. It tells me there's a disconnect somewhere for real.
Well, the disconnect for me, unless Trotz just flat out lied to us when he said that Evangelista is a critical part of this team's future, unless he was just completely lying when he said that, my disconnect is it has to be with Evangelista. It has to be with he doesn't want to stay here long term.
Could be. Again, I'm not trying to pin on any one person, but I'm not saying I disagree, but again, I just don't know.
But let's look at this. So I got Daily Faceoff's projected lineup still has Evangelista on the second line with Svechkov and Stamkos, which is kind of like I kind of look at that as the best option for your top 6. I kind of agree with Daily Faceoff. But if Evangelista's not in there, Max, who is taking that spot?
Michael Bunting.
Which is,
I
but
know.
then you get the musical chairs going, and then it's like, I mean, it's really looking bad. And that's why, I mean, you can say that Evangelista's soft, he's undersized, he's all looks and no game. I can read some of the comments I've gotten about the hate for Evangelista is higher than I thought it was, at least the people who interact with me on X. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Maybe you don't like the guy. Maybe you think he's going to be a bust. But have you seen the Predators depth chart? Are you ready to have
you
life?
Seen the Preds' past history with trading away these guys? Why don't you just keep one guy and let him develop?
Yeah. I mean, he's 3 years in the league, and I get it. He hasn't scored a lot of goals, but it's like, who has on this team? Other than outside of Forsberg, who has scored goals for this team on a regular basis? Nobody. So, I mean, you're comparing Evangelista to basically an organizational failure on a wide scale. So, I don't know. But I'm thinking if Evangelista is not on this team, then you're right that it's probably going to be Michael Bunting. They keep the status quo. But I don't see – it probably has to be. But at that point, if you lose Evangelista somehow, unless the player in return is of equal value and maybe you plug that player in, I think that if he's not in the lineup, then I would be willing to just say, you know what, this season it looks bad either way, even if he's in the lineup. But if he's not in the lineup, that's going to be a really bad look on the organization.
The black eye.
You've done fumbled away another young talent that you drafted. And I think that, just me personally, it's not going to be popular, and they're probably not going to do it. But I would give a young player a shot right out of the gate. Joachim Kimmel is my top choice.
I don't hate it. Even Zachary LaRue, I wouldn't hate.
What do you have to lose? I don't think Zachary LaRue is ready. Maybe Joachim
Who is? Who is?
I don't like Zachary LaRue as a top 6 player. I just
who do you like instead if you don't have Evangelista?
I've already seen Zachary LaRue enough last year. I don't think I haven't seen enough of Joachim Kimmel.
I guess. Point. I mean, the point is, but we can agree on there's so few good options. Is like, what can you do?
Joel says, plus wasn't Evangelista playing with a nagging injury last season. I want to see him playing with Forsberg again, who had great chemistry.
He played well with Forsberg and O'Reilly.
I mean, you can't judge a young player like Evangelista when he hasn't actually played with a lot of talent on his lines very often.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't know what's going to come of this. I'm so sick of talking about it. I wish it would just, happen already. And they would just get him signed.
Yeah, it's ridiculous at this point.
It really is.
It's completely around the corner, and this isn't done. I mean,
it's a really bad look on the organization.
It is.
Okay, so let's go quick fire, round out this episode of Catfish and Ice, episode 274, with a little comic book theme here. Let's go back to the Batman theme here. We can all agree, for the most part, that Philip Forsberg is the Batman of the Nashville Predators. Some people would say it's still Roman Josi. Some people might say it's UC Saros. We're not including goalies here. We're talking about skaters. So, Batman's got the utility belt. He's got the ability to do all these crazy things, take over. That's Philip Forsberg. We've seen him do it so many times. We've seen him go out and score goals on his own when the team is dead in the water. He has that ability, that rare ability to do that. But a lot of the elite teams have multiple Batmans, but almost every team has a Robin to their Batman. Who's going to be – you can only pick one player in this exercise. Who is going to be Philip Forsberg's Robin this year? The guy who steps up when Forsberg is having an off night, or maybe Forsberg is tearing it up, but Robin comes along and piles it on, makes it even better. So I'll save my answer until I hear Max's answer.
I'm going to give maybe an unconventional and maybe an answer that you guys might not like.
Nick Blankenberg.
No, I'm not even going to say that.
Sorry.
But when I look at this discussion, I go back to an article I wrote for Predlines about a month ago when I talked about the players on the Preds, and the likelihood of them having bounce back campaigns. And Forsberg was in this too. And basically the theme of my article was that I could see some slight improvements here and there, but I don't know that I really see full-blown bounce backs from a lot of these guys. Like if you look at a guy like, for example, Jonathan Marchessault, yeah, he had like a low shooting percentage, but like his speed is bad and his underlying numbers last year fell off a cliff. Steven Stamkos, not his underlying numbers, at least at even strength, has played even strength, has really taken a nosedive throughout the latest stage of his career. Ryan O'Reilly is too old and slow to make a huge impact anymore. Mm-hmm. Honestly, and also Yossi with the health issues, him getting older, all that. I don't see. I can't confidently answer that question.
It's tough
to see who's the Robin to Forsberg's Batman, because I don't really see another player on this roster who I can say that guy can take over a game. I don't see it.
Yeah. Well, my answer.
Gun to my head, you maybe choose one. I'm going to say Yossi just because he's the only guy on this roster I think that really has that ability left at this point in his career, but I don't know.
Yeah, and no, it's tough, and that's why this team is at where it's at, because it is a hard question to answer. It should be an easy. If this team was in good standing right now, it would be an easy answer. We would probably have multiple answers.
Or if it was a hard answer, to be because there's too many good guys, but there's so many the guys we don't think are good enough anymore.
So you brought up all the players that I can run through, and I'm going to run through some of them. You could go with Ryan O'Reilly just because Forsberg and O'Reilly have great chemistry. And one thing I will say about Ryan O'Reilly is age aside, the guy's a warrior.
Oh, yeah.
And he has always prided himself on scoring goals in the really difficult areas, in the dirty areas, in the unforgivable areas. And I do think there's a chance that Forsberg and O'Reilly will continue that for at least one more year, maybe. Maybe they can have some power play success together. Stamkos, it all depends on if they play on the same line together. We don't know exactly where Stamkos is going to line up yet. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a mystery in itself.
Yeah, that is 100%.
But Stamkos and Forsberg could definitely have some really good chemistry on the power play this year. Now they're also going into year 2 together. Maybe they've worked on it in the offseason. Maybe they'll come in more. For me, it's all about power play for the Predators. I think they have a lot of really good power play. For as bad as this team is on paper, I actually think they could be a decent power play team this year. If everything comes together, they've got a lot of guys who can feast on the power play. If it all comes together, supposedly Andrew Burnett's a power play guru. So that's kind of like a big area I'm watching this year is, hey, this team might not be very good at 5-on-5, but when they get on the power play, they really need to make teams pay. If they're gonna crawl out of the cellar this year, they've got to be a good power play team this year, because they're not going to be good at 5-on-5. I just don't think they're going to be able to match up with the best teams, or even the mid-range teams, some of them. But if they can be really good when they have the man advantage, and I look at some of these guys who have had good careers on the power play, that could be their equalizer in some games. So, but if I'm really going to pick the Robin, it has to be Jonathan Marchessault. It has to be. They're going to be on the top line together.
And he's the one guy I'll say, if I could see another guy bouncing back, that's the other guy I could see.
There's no other logical choice to pick on the other wing to Forsberg on the top line. I mean, if you move Marchessault off the top line, it's going to be because there's something going on with behind closed doors where the guy wants to be traded, which could happen. He didn't seem very happy last year towards the end of the year.
And the rumors were swirling that it could happen this offseason.
So if something like that comes up, then I could see Marchessault not being on the top line anymore. But if everything's going smoothly behind closed doors, he's going to be on your top line. You're not going to bump him down because, again, who's going to play in his place? There's nobody.
Right.
There's nobody to play top line with Forsberg.
I mean, I could see the slight argument that, I mean, I don't think it happens, but like with the way Forsberg or Riley Evangelista played, I could see that. But again, I don't see it happening.
We don't even know if he's going to be here, though. That's the problem. God, when you look at the depth chart and we going through this episode tonight, it makes it even more clear how big of a mess this team is right now, and the season's about to start. Of course, they could change our opinions, and that's why they show up on the ice, is because they play the games. We can look at paper all we want, but they show up, they play the games. They could prove us all wrong. And last year, it was the complete opposite. We looked at it on paper and we thought, man, this team has sneaky like Stanley Cup chances.
And they proved us wrong.
Good Lord, did they ever?
Just the way, that's not the way we wanted to be proved wrong.
Yeah. So I don't know. Could it be the other way around this year? But I mean, man. And here's another thing: injuries happen in hockey. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
And this team cannot afford any injuries.
Oh my God, one injury, and who knows what happens.
But I'm definitely going Jonathan Marchessault as my Robin, my top candidate to be Forsberg's Robin, because they're going to be on the top line together. Can they feed off each other? Can they go into year two as a duo where we're like, hey, okay, year one was shaky. You know, it started off slow, growing pains. Like, we couldn't build the chemistry right away. And then the season got out of hand. You know, we had historically bad puck luck. And I know people hate talking about that, but the Predators did have like one of the worst expected goal differentials in the league. They should have scored a lot more goals than they ended up scoring last year, which definitely could have led to at least, like, they still probably would have missed the playoffs, but they shouldn't have been as far down in the standings as they ended up. So in that regards, I think the puck luck has to at least somewhat be a little bit better for them this year.
Yeah.
And I think that Marchessault and Forsberg are going to be the beneficiaries of that.
Yes.
So I think that Marchessault is going to be his Robin. They're going to feed off each other. They're going to be the top 2-point scorers again, probably. And then is it going to be enough for those? Even if those two have great years, is that going to be enough to push the Predators in the playoffs? No, it's not.
100%.
They don't have enough depth. The only way the Predators are making the playoffs next year, I've said this time and time again, and I know it's an easy answer, but it's so true. Saros is going to have to just be a Vezina Trophy type of goaltender. He's going to have to make a lot of saves. His save percentage is going to have to be in the .920 range, and he's going to have to just like steal games like we know he can. He didn't do it last year, and I'm a Saros apologist. I defend that guy all the time, but he didn't steal enough games last year. And he is the type of goaltender that should be able to steal games because I know he has it in him. So that's the only way I really see the Predators making the playoffs next year, is if they become a top 3 goaltending team. Yeah. And that means Justus Onninen's also going to have to be better. And I know, Max, that you've said in previous episode that he got no help. And you're right about that. Right. So we really don't know Justus Onninen, who we haven't talked about at all this offseason. I think that this is his year to play for another team, honestly. Like, he's going to prove it. He wants to dig himself out of being a backup, and he's still young. So he's in that range in his career where he wants to prove that he shouldn't be a backup. He should be starting for somebody. So he's probably going to come in really hungry. He's probably not going to get a lot of starts. It's going to be Saros 60 games probably again. So I don't know, but Marchessault's my Robin. If Evangelista gets re-signed, he could be a sneaky dark horse to elevate to be Forsberg's next Robin. That would be the perfect scenario for me, Max, is if Evangelista gets re-signed, you start him off on the second line, and then he just balls out. He just he just takes over. And then you elevate him somehow to the top line and Marchessault. I don't know. That's what I see. Yeah. But this team has got a lot of problems.
There's, like you said, not a lot of depth and even less high-end talent.
And no margin for injuries.
There really is not.
You're going to be fielding an AHL squad with just a couple.
But hey, to a lot of the fans who have said this over the years, this might be another year where you're at the bottom of the league just because you have no talent or depth.
And next year's draft class looks even better than this past year's. At least that's what the scouts say.
This team could easily get this team. I mean, honestly, kind of should be in contention for a top 5 pick again.
And I'm never for tanking. I don't want this team to tank, obviously, but I want them to overperform.
Just calling it like we see it, though. I mean,
yeah, exactly. So we'll see how it goes. I think that they're going to be a little bit better than last year, but they're definitely not going to be a playoff team.
No.
I got them finishing in the mid 80s in points, and that's just based on the fact that I think that there's a lot of players who underperformed last year, had career bad years, and they're not going to be that bad 2 years in a row. So I think collectively speaking, the team's going to be a little bit better. I think Saros is going to be better. They're still going to lose a lot of games, and they're still going to not be able to hang with the upper echelon teams. And it's still going to be very clear that they're not a Stanley Cup team. But I do think that they're going to probably do what a lot of fans don't want them to do. They're gonna hang around. They're gonna probably not. They're gonna be right around the lottery conversation, but I don't think they're gonna have high lottery odds. But
it could happen though.
I think low to mid 80s is where they're gonna finish.
Probably.
And that'll be that, and we'll see what happens. But this is a year where we really need to see the younger players play.
Yeah,
because we got to start figuring it out, because these contracts are going to start falling off soon. Yeah. I mean, the window is closing. These veteran windows are closing and closing. And so Tross has already said it. We got to start finding out what we have. And this is the year to do it. Win or lose, this is the year to do it. This is the year you got to find out what you got with your younger players. They've been pushing it for far too long. Can't push it anymore. All right. Everyone, this has been a great episode with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg. Catfish and Ice, episode 274, presented by DraftKings with the Pick 6 app. It's crazy. When I do my outro, my dog, Sophia, runs up to my chair like she knows I'm finishing. It's so crazy how smart dogs are. Yeah. So that is that. I am heading up to Boise, Idaho for a vacation. I am all about going to places I've never been. I've never been to that part of the country. Hit me up in the comments if you're from there or know anything about Boise, Idaho. I've done my research. I'm an outdoors guy, so I can't wait to go up there and smell that crisp western air. And I live down here in Humidity Central in Tampa, Florida. So, I can't wait to get to a different climate and unwind a little bit, decompress a little bit, and get ready for the grind of the NHL season. And also, real quick, before we get out of here, we got our DMs open on Catfish on Ice on both Facebook and on YouTube and on X. Hit us up if you're interested in joining us for our live watch-alongs. I will post the actual schedule of what games we will actually be doing, the live watch-alongs. I want to make sure that we are on the same page, me and my co-host Max, before we actually put that out there. But we will be doing some live watch-alongs this season where we watch games with our listeners and viewers live, and we react to the game live. And we will be putting some of our listeners on live with us to talk about the game with us. It'll be a lot of fun. But you got to DM us, and you got to introduce yourselves to us if you're interested in that. Yeah. So until then, we will see you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hitting subscribe and hitting follow. We'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. This has been Catfish and Ice.
See you guys.